You're hearing this because, after years of dodging questions, staying private, and choosing silence over speculation, Keith Urban finally lets you in on what he's been holding inside. And the very first thing he wants you to understand is that none of this has ever been simple. Not the love, not the pressure, not the sacrifices both he and Nicole made, and certainly not the silence he kept for so long. He starts with the truth he rarely admits, that loving someone under the spotlight is a blessing and a battlefield at the same time. He says he didn't break his silence before because he didn't want the world dissecting pieces of a life that was already hard enough to protect. But now, at 57, with more clarity, more peace, and more understanding of himself, he finally feels it's time to reflect. Not to blame, not to expose, but to finally speak. He talks directly to you like he would talk to a longtime friend. He says the world saw the glamour. They saw the red carpets, the awards, the pictures of smiles, and the hand-holding. But what they didn't see were the countless days when fame pulled in opposite directions, him to the stage, her to a set on the other side of the world. They didn't see how he wrestled with the fear of not being enough, the guilt of not being present, or the ache of loving someone whose dreams were as massive as his. He admits those early years were the hardest, not because of a lack of love, but because of too much of it, too much passion, too much pressure, too much responsibility for two people who didn't grow up being taught how to navigate global attention. He remembers moments when holding on felt like a performance of its own. Moments when he felt like he had to be the strong one, even when his own demons were clawing at him. Moments when he watched Nicole carry the weight of the world while still trying to hold space for him. He tells you that silence became his safest choice, not because he wanted distance, but because the world never hesitated to twist a sentence, interpret a moment, or assign blame. So he built a quiet place around his relationship, a place where he thought nothing could reach them. But even that took its toll. He says the truth people forget is that silence isn't the absence of emotion, it's the overload of it. And at 57, he's finally admitting that silence sometimes hurt more than honesty ever could. He looked back at the early days with Nicole and remembers how their connection felt instant, electric, and terrifying. He confesses there were moments he wondered if he could truly live up to the kind of love she deserved. Moments when he questioned whether he was worthy of the kind of faith she put in him. Because underneath the success, the talent, and the fame, he was still a man who fought darker battles than most people knew. And those battles didn't disappear when he fell in love. He says what changed everything wasn't fame, wasn't distance, and wasn't the world's expectations. It was growth. It was understanding. It was finally accepting the truth that love isn't proven by perfection. It's proven by staying. He talks about how Nicole stood with him in moments he never thought anyone would witness, moments when he didn't recognize himself, moments when music felt far away and his own reflection felt even further. And he says he's breaking his silence now, not to relive the pain, but to honor what it meant. Because when the world thinks it knows everything about you, the only power you have left is the voice you've been afraid to use. He explains that being with someone as driven as Nicole meant constantly learning how to balance two enormous lives. And he admits that sometimes he struggled with that balance more than he ever let on. He tells you about the nights when the house was quiet, when he would pick up a guitar and strum the same chords over and over, not to write a song, but to settle the storm inside him. And how sometimes Nicole would sit beside him, not asking questions, not needing explanations, just offering presence. He says, that's the kind of love the world rarely sees. The moments behind closed doors, where silence becomes comfort instead of distance. He talks about how age changes everything, how 57 feels different than 37 or 47, how perspective deepens, how ego softens, how gratitude expands. And with that perspective, he finally understands how much strength it took for Nicole to navigate her own dreams while standing beside his. How much patience she had, how much resilience, how much heart. He breaks his silence to acknowledge that their love was never a fairy tale. It was real, flawed, messy, powerful, and filled with lessons that shaped him into the man he is today. He admits the world often wanted drama, wanted rumors, wanted stories. But he and Nicole wanted something simpler: peace, privacy, and a place where they could be human instead of headlines. He says he knows people wondered, people assumed, people filled the gaps with whatever sounded exciting. But the truth, the real truth, is quieter. It's gentler. It's something he guarded because it mattered too much to hand to strangers. He takes responsibility for the times he didn't communicate well, the times he let fear silence him, the times he tried to fix everything alone instead of leaning on the person who loved him. And he reflects on what love means to him now. Not the fireworks, not the global spotlight, not the public narrative, but the choices two people make behind the scenes. He finally admits that so much of his silence was about protection. Protecting Nicole, protecting their daughters, protecting a life he didn't want scrutinized. But he also admits that some of that silence came from not knowing how to express what he was feeling, how to articulate the internal battles he was fighting, how to translate vulnerability into words instead of melodies. At 57, he understands things he couldn't have understood before. He understands that love grows, shifts, deepens, transforms. He understands that mistakes don't define a relationship. Effort does. He understands that commitment isn't loud. It's consistent. He breaks his silence to say he's grateful. Grateful for the years. Grateful for the lessons. Grateful for the woman who walked beside him during the most transformative chapters of his life. And he says if he could redo anything, it wouldn't be the love. It would be the way he communicated that love. The way he spoke his truth instead of assuming silence was safer. Because silence might protect you from the world, but it can also distance you from the person you love most. He ends his reflection with a gentle message that relationships in the public eye are always more complicated than they appear, that two people can love each other deeply and still struggle, that no outsider ever knows the full story, and that the only thing that matters is what happens beyond the noise. He breaks his silence not to rewrite history, but to acknowledge it, not to spark rumors, but to bring closure, not to relive pain, but to honor growth. And finally, he turns back to you, yes, you watching, and says that love becomes something entirely different when you've lived enough life to appreciate the quiet truth behind it. Love survives not because it's perfect, but because people choose it, even when the world is watching. And if you want more real, emotional stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel